Hey, there she is live from, I forget where you're at, somewhere up east, up north.
Yeah, I'm northeast of Harrisburg in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. All right. I see that we got somebody here on the webinar today from Pennsylvania. Philadelphia. Is that where you're at?
I'm 2 hours west of Philadelphia, 2.5 hours.
Ah, okay. So you think there's plenty of doctors up there then?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm getting all kinds of text messages. I forgot to turn off my phone here. That's a big no-no, isn't it? Yeah, when you're doing something live like this. Well, looks like you're in your office today, Beverly.
I am. Yeah, I'm actually sitting at one of the girls' stations here. I have two full-time employees and a part-time employee, and I'm actually down in the basement. They put me down there just so they can have more space on this floor.
Wow, so this is, I mean, it's a real commercial office building. You're renting the space or leasing?
Yep, I'm renting the space. Been here
That
three
is
years.
cool.
Yep, three
Oh,
years.
that is cool. All right, so you have two people there that work in the office there with you,
hmm
and
Yeah,
anybody
they
else
work.
have you ever?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
What was that?
there's a little delay there. So are they? Have you hired anybody ever in the past that actually worked out of their home, like when you were first working out of your home?
I worked out of my home for the first 2.5 years, and one of the girls that's still with me, she worked at my house, and then I had also, when I was bringing on new clients, brought in other people that work remotely in Idaho and in Arizona, and I was still here in Pennsylvania, so it worked out really well.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the way most of our licensees start out there in their home, and there's really no reason to have office space unless you need it for extra people that are working for you, do you? I mean,
Right,
the doctors
right.
they don't come see you in your home or anything.
No, no, I go out and see them.
And I don't think doctors or anybody really nowadays cares if you're running a business out of your home. There, 50% of the homes out there probably have a business that they're running out of their home now.
Oh yeah, they've never asked me where's my office space? Am I in my house or where?
Yeah, it used to be an issue way back when before it was more common. But there are more people working commuting or telecommuting or whatever they call it nowadays, just working from home because man, if you can do that, you avoid all the traffic and all the headaches, of having to go to an office. Is your office close to your home?
3.5 miles.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
you could walk to that, couldn't you?
Yep. I've put a goal on myself that I'm gonna ride my bike starting this summer, and I hope I can achieve that goal.
Good for you. All right, I've already got a question here being asked about, well, we saw a picture of Steve. Where's Steve? Maybe they want to see and hear from him, but tell us about your husband. Is he involved in the
Steve
business?
has yeah, Steve has a full-time job. He works for the state of Pennsylvania, so he's down in Harrisburg, um, working his job.
Well, so,
I call it yeah,
some,
I call him my silent partner, and he's the greatest sounding board. After my day, I just come home and decompress and bounce ideas and thoughts off of him, and he gives me his input, and it's wonderful.
yeah, and sometimes we have licensees like yourself who they decide that they want to run the business. The spouse maybe has a nice job that they're making a good income from and benefits and all those kinds of things. So no need to let go of something that's you've got that's going good.
Right. Yeah.
So
He
are you
enjoys
actually
what
looking at?
he's doing, so it's all good.
Oh, good. Now, are you looking at your computer screen there along with everybody else?
Yep. I have my picture up.
Uh,
Yep.
all right. Well, then let me just show you this picture. See if you remember this one.
Oh, I'm nervous. Oh, yay! That's
You
awesome.
remember that? Yeah, there you go. That was when you graduated from our training class, and
Yeah.
look at you holding up your little certificate there, showing you're a certified revenue manager, and there I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an awesome week. Fun week. That was the Friday afternoon when we got done. I will tell you that Steve is a lot more gray now than he was in that picture.
You know, I started to say I am too, but I was pretty gray in that picture actually.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it every moment.
All right, now I didn't ask you if I could share this email from you, this little note that you sent me, Beverly, but I'm going to throw this up here and let me make sure that I didn't. This was in July of last year. But anyway,
Yeah,
I just thought it was a nice little note for you that you sent to me. You remember sending something about one of your clients and you sending an invoice?
I did, and I knew that was the email you were going to bring up. Yes.
Yeah, we were we sent that around the office here. Everybody wanted to see that because folks, if you look closely here, Beverly is saying she actually wrote this to Jordan in our office here. Says one of my clients is receiving an invoice for $25,663.93. That was a nice month for you there, wasn't it?
That really was, yeah. In fact, it continued for several months. So, that was very, very nice.
Now,
Um,
just so people kind of wrap their brains around that, that of course is not well, that is the money that you made from for the doctor. Is that
that
right?
is the money that I made, yes.
Yep.
Um, this particular client is a pathology doctor, and the billing that we were doing for her netted her $500,000 a month. And so then I just took my percentage off of that $500,000, and that's what I billed her for our services.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so now in general, you don't have to get specific with this particular client, but in general, tell people who are not familiar with this business at all how you actually get your money. Kind of explain to them what you base that on and what kind of percentages you use and that kind of thing.
Yeah, every client or every prospect is different. I have not written a contract. Um, every contract is unique because every practice is unique. It depends on how many providers they have in the practice, what type of practice, and actually what they want us to do. So going through the practice analysis, which Patrick and company will talk a lot about when you go to training, is a must. That's one of the starting points of building your relationship with the practice. Is you need to get to know their business, and by asking great questions through the practice analysis, you'll be able to determine what percentage you are going to charge for your services. I have, in my experience, uh, usually do a percentage that is all inclusive. That means from start to finish, and I do that rather than doing an a la carte charge where you charge X amount of dollars for this service, X amount of dollars for that service. I just do an all-inclusive, and the practices and the decision makers are much happier with just getting one percentage price, and knowing that everything is going to be taken care of.
Yeah, in other words, they kind of in their own head can do that math each month, right? And say, oh, well, if she collected $100,000 for me and she's charging me 6%, that's $6,000. But
Exactly, exactly.
but compared to what, yeah, but normally, isn't it true that compared to what they would be paying for their own staff, their own software, upkeeps, support fees, et cetera, they'd be paying a whole lot more for that billing,
Oh,
huh?
absolutely, and benefits too. They they're used to, their staff, you have X amount of employees, and they're paying their hourly rate. Some of them are salary and their benefits. How I position myself is I'm not an expense. I am an asset to your business. So by hiring us, revenue cycle management experts, they need to wrap their arms around knowing that we are that asset, because even though they're outlaying money for your services, the implementation fee, the setup fee, eventually, in my experience, in less than 6 months, they've received their ROI, and now we're increasing their cash flow, which makes my invoice to the provider minimal in their eyes, because they're seeing that increase in their cash flow, and they're not paying for more staff, more benefits, more of all of that. They're just having my invoice. And it makes sense once they understand that hiring me as their revenue cycle management, it's not just billing, it's all encompassing, and I become their trusted advisor. They see the value in it.
That's a good way to put it. I like that term, their trusted advisor. And really, it's all about trusting, because this is their revenue, this is their money that's coming into the practice. I mean, it's a big step for them to outsource this to someone that's
Absolutely.
not, a brother-in-law or a wife or something,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got another picture here I want to show you.
Okay.
You may have forgotten you sent me this one. I think this was last year you sent me this. Here it comes.
Oh, yep, that's the outside of the building.
Okay, so that's the building you're in right now.
Yep, and I'm in that top floor right now. Yes.
Oh, okay. And you're wearing a Dallas Cowboys shirt, so I like this picture.
Yeah, I was going to say the last picture in this one is my Cowboys gear. So yes, everybody, I am a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, and I'm so happy that DeMarcus Ware is coming back.
All right, now let me ask you: are you still doing some advertising on a billboard of any kind?
Yep. I have 2 billboards in town, and I'm actually thinking of expanding that and looking into digital billboards. So we'll see.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I have that picture you sent me of that too. I just wanted to make sure before I threw it back up here that you were still using it. But
yes.
That's fantastic. Is this? It looks like it's right by maybe the entrance to your town or something.
That is, yeah. Actually, it's halfway between my house and the office. This is right at the Route 34 that goes right into New Bloomfield, which is where my office is at.
That is awesome. And it looks like you've got a logoed shirt on there for your company logo. Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, I had T-shirts. Yeah, I had T-shirts made, and that's one of the T-shirts. And on the back of it, it's just a bigger picture of our logo.
Ah, okay. It's an awesome. Everything about your company is awesome. I get your newsletters, and they are awesome. Yep. I don't know if you're doing those yourself or not, but they're just fantastically professional looking, Beverly.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, all the content I'm writing, and I share with my social media manager. He gives me some little bit of ideas if I've got writer's block, but pretty much I'm writing all my blogs, and then I send them back to him to critique, and then he posts them on my Facebook page and my LinkedIn page, and it works.
Wow. I've never heard somebody actually say those words. I have a social media manager. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes.
That is awesome. Now, tell us about social media then. Are you out on, some of the big ones, Facebook, LinkedIn? What do you own?
For the business, it's Facebook and LinkedIn. He does have my Twitter feed up also. I do a lot of LinkedIn activity, a lot of articles, a lot of quotes, a lot of research, what other individuals in our industry are looking for. I actually also created my own LinkedIn group. It's called Physicians Speak Up, and it's basically a forum for just physicians to post whatever they're dealing with for that day, that week, and I just watch the conversations of the physicians and chime in every now and then with a little value add tip. It is not a sales platform at all. I want them to see the value that I bring to their issue, what I can solve. And then if a physician reaches out and says, hey, you know, how does that work? That's when I start going in with my pitch of, well, let's get together for, you know, 30-minute chat or 10-minute chat and just start my sales process from there.
That is awesome. You know, we don't teach a whole lot about that in our class. I mean, we tell people the things that they could be looking into, but I mean, you got to stay on top of that because the rules and regulations for all those social sites out there change, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and that's what Jason, my social media manager, is good at.
That's why it's worth having somebody like that.
Yeah, he gets to keep up on all that, and he just, you know, clues me in every now and then.
Now, I do have a question here from, oh, this is a Patrick. Hey, Patrick, I like that name. Patrick says, Beverly, how did you get your first client, and how quickly did that happen?
I got my first client through social media, through LinkedIn. As a referral, I was in a formal networking group, and one of the members of that group was also on LinkedIn, and I actually stalked their LinkedIn profile to find out who they were connected to.
Oh,
and
really?
I picked out all the doctors, facilities, you name it, and I asked my colleague in the network group if she would introduce me to her connections, and she did, and one of them became a client. And I'll be happy, Patrick, I didn't even tell you this. That was my first client, and just yesterday I was down at his office celebrating because we have been partners for 5 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how I got my first client, was through referral from LinkedIn, and once I did that, then my clients started coming in.
Yeah. Now, you know, for a lot of people, they probably take that as a negative, but, you know, look where you're at now. I tell people this is not a get-rich-quick scheme for sure,
Right.
and it's certainly not typical, just not to make you feel bad, Beverly, but a lot of people
Oh,
leave
no.
the training. You know, they get their first client in the first 30 days or 60 days. Everybody's different, and it depends on your background and how much time you have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to devote to it, and all kinds of things there.
Absolutely. I am definitely on the lengthier side, and you know, one of the stories of, if anybody is going, my gosh, it's been 3 months and I don't have my client yet, what's the deal? Call me, and I can, you know, relate to the stories and help people out, because I'm just one of those that it just took a little longer, that's all.
Starting a home business can be lonely, you know? And if you don't have resources, you kind of feel like you're out on your own and you don't know what to do. So that's why we put the people together with successful licensees, so they can say, look, here's my story. You know.
Absolutely. Yep.
Let's see. Here is a question from Valeria. I probably am saying that wrong, but anyway, they say, does ABS teach us how to follow up on the claims? How do you deal with denials and rejections and appeals on your daily basis, Beverly?
The girls in the office do a fantastic job on their denials and the accounts receivable balance. They do a better job than I do. That's why they do it and I don't. They when we get our electronic remittance devices in, that's basically the electronic version of a paper EOB. There are some denial codes and some descriptions of why Medicare or Aetna or whomever denied the claim. So you kind of got a little bit of head start on why they denied it. And you do some research with the practice to get a little bit of information about that particular patient. And the denial could be didn't have an authorization code, or the coding is different than what they expected, whatever the case may be. And then you can pick up the phone, call the payer, and a lot of them are getting very automated with their call centers. And you can press 1 for this and that, and you get to a representative, and you're like, well, we'll use the example of the authorization, and you just say, well, my authorization code was on the claim, why was it denied? And you just work through it, and 10 times out of 10, usually they resubmit the claim for further review, and then it comes back and it gets paid.
Yeah, this is kind of a question that kind of ties in with all this. This is from my MY. Says, do you have to know the coding? Can you talk to us about coding?
Sure.
And do you use our service, the Code Drive service?
I have not used it officially, only because the coding that the practice, the coding in our EMRX allows the provider to select the specific code that they want to use for the diagnosis and or the procedure codes. We don't assign the codes that comes from the office. You get to the point where you've processed so many claims for that particular office that you get very familiar with the code. And if a claim comes through and you're just, well, this, for the last 10 claims they had XYZ code, and now it's coming in with ABC, you kind of, do your due diligence and say, okay, practice, Dr. Smith, do you really want ABC code to come through? And we're just scrubbing the claims just to make sure that, it is what they want. And you don't have to memorize codes. You don't have to go through the long process of trying to figuring out. The system does the pre-edit checks for us. If, it highlights the codes on the EMR side. For the provider, he can drill down and he or she can drill down and be as vanilla or as granular as they want to on the specifics of the code, and then it just gets transferred over to the billing side, and we scrub it and send it out.
Yeah, now when you say you scrub it, that's a part of our system, of course, right? Taking and looking at all the parts of the claim to make sure that they're accurate before it goes on to the clearinghouse, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is kind of illustrated. What's that?
I said it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and this is kind of illustrated here on this screenshot that I've got here, showing there on the right side that it does have the codes built in. You'll notice there's an ICD-9 and there's an ICD-10 button here, and that allows the doctor to look for a code that has to do with fractures, for example. And as soon as they tap it in, it comes up with the codes, and they just choose the one that applies to what they just did to help the patient. Because there's
Yep.
what, I don't know how many codes there are now, 60, 70,000 maybe?
Oh, yeah, it's too many.
Yeah. So it's nice having all those built into the system, so you don't have to know it. Now, folks, I just had a person ask me today if they could, if they wanted to, could they take a course in coding? And I said, of course you can. But I think what you'll find out is that the more you know about any business, the better, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you don't have to spend the money and time to do that in this business, because we've spent the money and the time to put all the codes into the system to make it easy for the doctor to choose the right code. I mean, ultimately, it's not your decision about the codes anyway, is it, Beverly? It's the doctor.
Right. Yeah, and the codes, they're updated behind the scenes. Everything's real time. There's nothing that we have to do to maintain or install or download or upload any of that stuff. It's hands off as far as that's concerned, and it's just that simple. You click on that box for whatever code you want, and it's basically building the claim while the doctor is going through the patient's encounter.
Yeah, it's almost doing it all for you if they're using our electronic medical record system there. Like the doctor could be using the iPad to actually visit with the patient, hitting the buttons there that apply to that particular visit, and boom, it's all that you need to do the actual billing behind the scenes, as the billing company is already there, done for you.
Correct.
Here's a good question here about Melinda. Now, she says, what is your denial rate? So let's start out by, let me share this first, Beverly. In general, folks, all over the entire industry, the average out there is somewhere close to 33%. In other words, about a third of all the claims that are sent, you have an initial denial rate of about a third of those. Now, some of those, of course, can be resubmitted if the practice knows what they're doing. They can find what's wrong and take the time to resubmit it and all that. But in our system, it's a whole lot less than that, isn't it, Beverly?
Yeah, it's anywhere between 2 and 4%, closer to the 2%.
Yeah. We used to say less than 2%, and it's actually, again, this is nationwide amongst all of our licensees through all the millions of claims that go through the system. It's less than 1% now on average. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not some that are more than that. Like you said, they could be, but even 4% to a doctor compared to 33% is a huge increase in their revenue, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when we go in there and I pitch that, and I say the industry average is 33%, and with using our system, we can bring that down to 2 to 4%. Right there is a direct increase to their bottom line. It's like, they didn't have to do anything, and they've all of a sudden got a raise. So it's pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah, that question, I don't know if I said the name, but that was from Melinda. All right, so here's one from Valeria. Says, what makes a good medical biller? That's a good question. If you're hiring somebody, for example, what do you look for, when you're looking for a good medical biller?
Organization. Organization skills are a must. Phone skills are a must because they're on the phone with the payers. Of course, communication with the practice. You want them to be professional and come across very confident. They need to be confident in what they found in the denials to communicate that to the practice. So you want to have somebody that is confident in what they're doing. Research skills are a plus. A lot of the times, the girls here in the office, they will do research on denials or do research on coding up and beyond what I expect them to do, because they want to know what is out there, what is we do billing for a provider here in PA, but her services are in other states. So what do the other states require? So somebody that's proactive and wants to go out there and do research to find out, in this example, what the other states require. So when the claims do come in from the other states, we make sure that the regulations and everything is adhered to, so the claims go through cleanly and we don't get denials from the other states. So there are differences from state to state, and so if you have somebody that's proactive and wants to make sure that they're submitting good quality claims, they'll go up and beyond what's normally done at Billing Street down the road. So I say organizational skills is a must, proactive, good communication skills, confident people, and not afraid to learn something new. I come up with projects and it's new stuff for them, and I just let them loose, and they're not afraid to learn new stuff.
That's good. Having good people working for you, that's a good thing. And have some of your people just started, or have they been with you for a while?
They've been with me for a while. The original girl that I hired that worked with me at my house, she's 3.5 years with me, and then the other one is 2.5 years.
That was a question here from Salim. When did you hire your first employees or outside contractors? And he also says, what was the deciding factor? Was it based on the number of claims or the number of doctors that one person can handle? When did you decide that you needed help?
When my living room was inundated with medical billing stuff, equipment, you name it. Yeah, it was my dining room table. The two of us were sitting stationed at my dining room table, and it got to the point where it was kind of getting overwhelmed, and I had a client that was an occupational therapy client, and specifically took in auto cases and workman comp. And at that time, those particular industries did not accept electronic claims, so everything was paper. And even though we could submit things electronically, the workman's comp payer, they needed to have it all paper. So I had workman's comp paperwork, documentation all over the living room area, and that's when I knew I needed some help to help me keep all this stuff organized.
Yeah. Let's see. Manisha says, how long has she been an ABS licensee? I think you indicated about 6 years. And what did you do before this?
Yeah. June 1st, I will be starting my 7th year.
Oh, that's your anniversary, June 1st.
June 1st. That's when I opened the business, and actually, no, that's not. My 6th year. Sorry about that. Yeah. June 1st of 2011.
You don't have to know math to be a medical biller.
I'm joking. I should know this because it shows right on my LinkedIn profile. When I look at it every day, it says 5 years and 11 months.
So what did you do before this?
I was a IT manager for various different companies and consumer products, and I have my bachelor's and my master's in the IT field. So I, plugged in widgets and broke things and put it back together and cleaned computers and installed stuff, and your IT guru.
Sound like a nerd to me.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I managed a pretty big team of IT nerds that were involved with warehouse, IT and equipment and network, and I mean I've built it, I broke it on purpose so that I could build it again and just sit back in a room and you know, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
geeky thing, but somebody's got to do it.
Let's see, we're running close to an hour here, pretty quick. So I've got a few more questions here. Let's just try to get to those pretty quickly. And folks, if you're going to want to ask a question directly to Beverly, you need to get to typing them in. Here's from Angela. She says, when trying to sign up new doctors, what objections do you face? What's the biggest, hardest part about talking to a doctor about this? What do they bring up?
First thing they're going to ask you is how much is it going to cost? As ever, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, it's always about money. Yeah.
Um, so you got to kind of work through that, as I was talking earlier about they need to look at you as a value add and as an asset, not as an expense. So you kind of have to bring them into the conversation as, you know, you don't want to answer them with a dollar amount because you don't know that much about the practice. So if you go in there and say, oh, it's going to cost you $5,000 or whatever, they're going to hold you to it. So you kind of want to just start the relationship, be in control of the relationship, lead the provider down your process and your sales process, because eventually you'll get to that point of the proposal and discussing how much it's going to cost. But there's so much that needs to be done, homework, conversations, having that trust before you get into anything about the cost. I mean, they use that as a deflection to say, well, even if you said it was $5, they'd say, oh, it's too much just to get you out of the door. You know, if you start the conversations off right and you show that you're there to build a relationship, to be that trusted advisor, they'll come around.
Yeah, and they come around after you've done that practice analysis and show them on paper that it's going to save them money or make them money. Because you're right, it's all about the bottom line. You know how I used to deflect that? If a doctor asked me directly or an office manager about pricing, I would say, well, we can do your claims for about 25 cents a claim. And they would all look at me like, what? Because they know that you can't do it for that. And I go, well, let me say this. If I actually could do it, I told you that I could do it for 25 cents a claim, would you trust me at that point? Because of course not. They know that you would have to be lying or, cutting corners somewhere, right? So I tell them, it all depends. But I can assure you that if this comes out costing you money, then you probably shouldn't do business with me. And they'll go, what do you mean costing you money? It's going to cost me something, isn't it? I go, well, not if we do this right.
Yeah.
If you'll let me do the practice analysis, I'll show you that it's going to save you money and make you money, not cost you. So anyway.
Yeah, and I've gotten to the point with the education and experience that in my proposals, I give them 100% money back guarantee. If I am not, if I don't fulfill my obligation and they're not making money, more money than if they were gone route B, I put in there, it's 100% money back guarantee, because I'm not confident to know that I am going to make that practice money based off of the information I gathered on their practice analysis. If they have an AR balance that is out, through the roof, I know right there that I can make them money.
Sure.
Just that simple.
I think that's great. We offer, as you know, a 100% money back guarantee. If people come through our training and don't think it's really what we said it was going to be, or they don't like it for some reason, they can ask for their money back. Mm-hmm. That's happened, maybe a handful of times over the last 23 years, but it gives people the assurance that, well, you must believe in what you're doing, or you wouldn't give a guarantee like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I can say I can guarantee their ROI within 6 months.
Yeah.
I've been able to hit that every single time.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little time. You got to get geared up and know what they're doing and to start submitting claims and see how to compare it with what they were doing. But yeah, 6 months, I think that's a good trial period.
Yep.
Sure. Now, somebody's asking here about the packages. He's talking about the different ancillary services
Mm-hmm.
like, you know,
Code right,
Code Right and Audit Guard,
audit
Choice Pay,
guard.
and so forth. Yeah, it says, how many of these do you actually offer, do you actually use? That's from Dell.
The next one in line that I use a lot is the Quick Collect. We use that, and Quick Collect is one of the services for bad debt, patient bad debts, and it's a great service, um, easy, easy to justify, I guess is the word. And actually what I do now, what I started doing is there's two services that I automatically include in my setup and implementation. Quick Collect is one of them, and then the other one is our merchant services. I automatically enroll a new client in those two services because in my experience, our merchant services program, bar none, is a lower rate and it's integrated into our practice management system. We already have that partnership built up, so it's just a no-brainer. And then Quick Collect, because there's always bad debt in every practice. And so these two processes I use right up front, rather than what I used to do is further down the line, I'd be like, well, look at this balance, this bad debt balance. We can take care of that by implementing this service. Well, then it looks like to the practice that, here I am selling again, and here I am trying to get more money out of them. When I just roll it up at the beginning, they don't even know about it, that it's an extra service. It's just part of the setup. So I've learned to ask for what you want at the beginning. Then you don't have to go back and try to convince the provider that they also need this service.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. And as you know, that's what we teach in your proposal. Put as many things in there that we offer as you can to give them the option. I mean, they don't have to take those and use those particular services, but at least it shows that you've got a lot more than the average medical billing company has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's see. Here's a question.
I use the auto card also. I use a lot the auto card.
Oh yeah, yeah.
To send out postcards and mailers and gifts, and so I have that. I use that as a direct mail marketing tool. So that's a really good service that I use also.
I think I have a slide of that. I'm trying to find it here, but anyway, let me ask this question. This is from Natish. Says, how many hours a day did you put, your time into this business? How many hours a day?
At the beginning? At the beginning, I would say, it's hard to remember, 60, 65 hours. Sometimes when I'm bringing on a new client, it is 70 hours, because there's a lot of time. Our technology partner works very well with us with new clients, and getting them up and going as quickly as possible. But there's a lot of prep work to be done to get the account built and get all the patients into the new system. Right now, I'm at 50 hours, 50, 55 hours a week.
Yeah, I joke about this, but I tell people you can, this is a part-time business. You can put in any 12-hour period of the day you want to. But isn't it funny though, Beverly, that when you have your own business, you don't think of it as I'm putting in hours. It's like
Yeah.
I'm building something here for me and my family, and it's the more hours you put in, obviously, the more money you're going to make. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm clipping away at 10 hours a day from start to finish.
yeah.
Uh, and then it goes
But
up from
then
there whenever there's a new client.
some people spend an hour a day both ways, getting to and from a job. So there's your 8 hours plus two. I don't
Yep.
think of that either. I stumble in here sometimes in the mornings. I'm up at 5:30, and then so I'm in here by 6 sometimes working. And my wife gets up, a little bit later and says, "What are you doing up and working already?" I go, "I've got things to do." And I'm still involved in the business, even though I tell people I'm retired. I'm not really. I probably put in more hours than most of my staff does. But I
Yeah.
just love it. I just love it. Let's see. Here's one from Rick says, so do you bill extra for the quick collect and the merchant service? How do you include it?
Yeah. The merchant service, the bill actually comes from the merchant service company.
Yeah.
Um, I don't bill the provider for that service. It's just one of those setups. Now, at the initial thing, it would cost whatever, $100 for the terminal, and just some startup stuff. But I don't get involved with billing the provider the practice for merchant services. Uh, and
All right.
as far as quick collect, again, an add-on, and how it works is the partner, the third-party technology partner, bills the provider directly for each account that is set up. Now, just like the billing, I have the girls do all the maintenance and work on behalf of the provider with Quick Collect. So Quick Collect, based off of the money that is received. So if a patient has a $100 balance and they paid the $100, then the Quick Collect charges the provider a fee, and then they also give us a percent of that money that was paid. And so I make a few bucks here and there, and it works. And then I'll turn around and say to the provider, Dr. Smith, well, we spent an hour or 3 hours this month doing your bad debt, and I charge them an hourly rate for that work, because that's outside of the billing process.
Sure. But it's collecting money that the doctor would probably never see.
Exactly right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let me get a few more here, and we'll wrap this up. What are the cons of this business? Ask Manisha. What are the cons of this business, and how do you avoid or minimize those cons? Anything
The,
negative, in other words?
yeah, the first one that comes to mind, and this is from coast to coast, from border to border, is the hospitals are going out and trying to buy out all the independent practices. You'll see that all over the place. The, the key to circumvent that is to find the independent provider association that is in your area or wherever you want to prospect. The independent provider association, we can't be members of because we're not doctors. However, what I have done is, for the association here in my area, I've connected with the office manager on LinkedIn. Had a few conversations with her, and every single post that she posts, I make a comment, so I'm in front of her all the time, building that relationship. So when she's ready to have, coffee or lunch with me, I'm top of mind because she knows what I'm about. And it's more likely that I'll be invited to, or she will send me information about all of the independent practices in this area. So I can't control what's going on out in, the country about the hospitals, but I can control how I'm proactively seeking out the independent associations, because those physicians want to stay independent. They do not want to have anything to do with what's going on from coast to coast.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I wrote this book with Dr. Beverly Reider. As you know, Beverly, this basically tells the doctor how they can be a thriving medical practice,
Right.
and stay in practice, earn more money, work less hours, and really get control of their revenue, because it's all about the revenue. If the doctors had enough revenue, they probably wouldn't even consider working, for a hospital or anybody else. They want to be
Exactly.
independent business people, but sometimes it's hard because their revenue has dropped so drastically in the last few years because of all the rules and regulations and changes from the government. Okay, one
That's
last
correct.
question here. It's 4:59, so let me wrap this up. And folks, I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions here, but we'll forward these questions on to Beverly. And Beverly, if somebody wants to talk to you directly, can we put them in contact with our business coaches here and let them connect you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. All right, so here's the last question. Patrick says, how do you make time for vacations with the family if you're, the sole proprietor?
Oh, that's a very easy question. I like this question. Because our applications are all web-based, I can take my iPad, my laptop, whatever I choose, my phone, and take it with me. And I can be in contact with the girls back here at the office. I can check on claims. I can check on any client's productivity that I want. Or if I truly want to just unplug and, not check on anything, I can. But because everything is right there on our mobile devices, you can take it anywhere that there's an internet connection.
Right. It's a nice business to be as flexible as you can be with a business, working on the beach in Hawaii, while you're. Well,
Yep,
Beverly,
and
thank
I
you.
have done that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Beverly, for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go now, and I'm just going to kind of wrap up here with folks. If you want to talk to Beverly directly now, folks, get back with the person who sent you the email inviting you to this webinar, and they'll make connections with you and any other licensees that you want to talk to as well. Thanks again, Beverly. Appreciate your time and for sharing all that with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, Beverly. Continued success to you and your family.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.